We're very happy to be here today with you. And I tear up easily because we were stuck for 14 years in Istanbul. So we are very pleased to finally be here. We're going to speak in French, and I can answer the question in English. I am Fanny.
So my name is Fanny, and I'm a patient suffering from atopic dermatitis. Since I was born, I also have chronic rhinitis and allergies. So I have the whole package, a rather severe form of AD, and I've been suffering a lot from it. But a therapeutic education has really changed my life, and ever since I've discovered it, I have been committing to sharing that with other patients. I'm now a partner of the Eczema Foundation. I participate in a lot of different projects, and actually you've seen me in one of the videos. And I met Anne-Marie there. And my name is Anne-Marie Tranier. I'm a nurse in the Toulouse hospital in the dermatology service. And we are part of the Atopia schools. We're going to say a few words about how to fine-tune collaboration between patients and ETP experts. So, looking back to the 1980s, HIV/AIDS associations back then were the ones who were really knowledgeable about TPE and how to help patients with it. In this context, it felt impossible to have a patient-centric approach that would not be designed with patients. Expert patients for some caregivers are considered to be expert of their form and not of the whole pathology. And as for us patients, we think that caregivers are only experts of the theory and of the patients that they have seen or read. But for many patients, we think that caregivers can't really know what a burden it is and what it feels like living with the disease on a day-to-day basis. So there's a lack of trust on our part there. And we also know that it's very difficult for some patients to identify themselves as experts, which is why we often talk about partner patients or resource patients rather than expert patients, because I feel that I'm an expert for myself only and not generally speaking, which is why this word of expert patient can be problematic in TPE, both for patients and caregivers. So this expert patient, are they a model patient? Are they a compliant patient? Do they have a link with associations? Do they need to have a theoretical training? What kind of skills are expected from expert patients? Indeed, it's quite difficult sometimes to identify them and to train them. Anne-Marie and myself think that the first step is finding a common ground, which will be at the crossroad between the caregiver's path and the patient's path. For the caregiver, it's going to be professional and personal experience, of course, everything that they read in the literature. And on the patient side, there is an expertise as to their own trajectory, their own therapeutic wanderings as well, the failures that they might have experienced. And many patients also find resources on the internet. It's not always very reliable, but still it's there. And when patients are very young, their family, their parents in particular, will be part of this dialogue. Parents can themselves be caregivers. They can be a source of information. And so you have this common ground between these two or three stakeholders. But to have that common ground, you need to have trust and to have a non-judgmental approach. In an ideal world, the caregiver is hoping that there will be pedagogical skills, a possibility to adapt, to explain, and to have some nuance in the emotions. And that will be Fanny, who plays this role. And patients dream of caregivers who are capable of communicating well, who are available, who have time for us, who are capable of not using too much jargon, but instead communicating clearly and simply to share their knowledge. And what we expect from them is that they are open to other health options and to the whole of our health, so including food, sleep patterns, our health in general. We want our caregivers to be empathetic and patient, and that's exactly the kind of caregiver that Anne-Marie is. So when we want to have this collaboration between caregivers and patients, what can we do? We have a number of suggestions there. First, we think that TPE programs have to be co-designed from the get-go. So it's not about building a TPE program and then inviting patients into it. Instead, patients should have their say from the very beginning, and that way caregivers and patients can really design together what their needs are, what their limits are, etc. And we also need that to improve information when it comes to communication and pedagogy. And everything that has to do with motivating patients as well. It's important to limit injunctions and interdictions and to be able to overcome resistance. Indeed, if we want to overcome resistance on the caregiver side or on the patient side, then we need to change the caregiver's discourse, which is often centered on Western medicine only and only typical treatment, and instead be able to listen to the patient, to what they want, to what they expect, what their priorities are. So improving communication on both sides is a great way to improve collaboration and to ensure patient collaboration at all stages. It's important and it's worth it, because expert patients have a major role in the decision-making process. So I'm very sorry, I know that you have a lot of professional experience and that you studied for years to become doctors, but we've got the street creds. And I think that we can work together. I think that if we work together, we can be much more powerful and bring about a lot more change. It was the case for me. So thank you for listening to us.